So we are now recording. I'm Tony Higginson. I run Beyond Books Media Limited, and we are a bookshop who goes out and about into the community, to schools and libraries and to community groups. We do pop-up stalls, we do events with authors and poets, illustrators. We do live storytelling with props, and when room allows, a 15-foot wigwam, which is
Wow.
great fun bouncing around on the top of my car. You cannot go over 30 and you do not go near the speed bump. But a short while ago, one of my oldest friends, in fact, he's even older than me, so he is oldest. The chap to the side of me, George Cunningham, started chatting to me about what could we do together? Because we've known each other a long time. And he suddenly, well, Julie, his wife down below me, actually, I think had the real idea. We all like stories and words and ideas and books. In fact, obviously they know this from my job. And George said, do you know, we could recommend some books you can put on your website. In fact, we know people who've written books you could put on your website, and you can tell people they're good. And I said, well, that's an easy thing, isn't it? I can do that. And I thought, the obvious thing is, I also know people who write books. In fact, I know quite a few, really. So George and Julie and I had a little meeting, only about 2 weeks ago, I think. We came up with this idea of doing a Monday night book club where, when possible, we'll get a guest author on board, or a poet, or an illustrator, or a playwright, anything really to do with creating ideas and sharing them. And George and Julie run a wonderful thing. In fact, George is going to tell you about it in a minute. So there'll be people that link in from that side of things. There'll be people that I know, like Nathan. And hopefully everyone who takes part in this will go away and say to someone, get in touch with Julie or George or Tony. By running it every Monday, I think we've got a lot of time we can fill. We can cover books for adults, books for children, self-help books. There's so much we can do. But I think it'd be nice if George tells us a little bit about what he does and how he and Julie brought this little idea forwards. And then I'm going to let Nathan take over, who's going to talk about keeping it local.
Okay, so my name is George Cunningham. I'm the main trainer, I suppose, at NLP Liverpool here, which is run with Julie, my wife, the boss. I know my place. And we had this idea because we do an awful lot of communication skills training. We do a lot of creativity training. We specialize in NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming. And an awful lot of the people that we train through actually end up either becoming authors, writing books, or just have an interest in the spoken word, in the written word, and have an interest in reading. And when Tony came along to a webinar or web chat that we were doing a few weeks ago, we suddenly went, as you said there, Tony, we know loads of people who are authors, etc. Let's mix this all together and start actually utilizing those contacts. And I suppose the idea of this is that, Nathan, who will be on in a moment or two, is going to talk about your books, Nathan. And Ruth, who unfortunately seems to have dropped off, actually, will be talking about her books. And Tony, you've read so many books. I think it'd be fair to say you're one of the most
thickness reading glasses these days.
Yeah, I know. So am I. Mine are sort of going that way as well. And the books behind me and the books behind Julie, we've got a whole wealth of books that we've read and can wax lyrical about. So it kind of made sense to share that passion that we have with the wider world, I suppose. So Julie, have you got anything else that you'd like to add to this? She's
She's happy just watching, you see. You always need an audience. The worst thing is to feel you've got to join in. I mean, it's nice if people can just dip in and have a listen to what I or the author is talking about. And at relevant times we want people to join in and ask questions. So Mary and Peter, once Nathan's done a little bit of filling us in on who he is, what he does, why he does it and all that, do feel free. I mean, I know you know him, Marie, but there might be something that you can ask him about why he does what he does, something like that, really. Now, just a bit of background. I do some work for UCLan in Preston, the university. They started publishing books a couple of years ago. They won a couple of prizes. They're doing really well, actually. And they organised a thing with Lancashire Libraries called the Lancashire Book of the Year. And they were organising a huge day where all the children from at least 30 schools that have read 6 or 8 books on this shortlist come together. They've all voted, so it's voted for by the children. And for them, it's hugely exciting because they are now going to meet the authors of the books they've read. And I got an email off Nathan saying, "Oh, I'm on the shortlist for this Lancashire Book of the Year thing, and I've only written the one book, and I'm a bit new to all this. Can I sell some books?" I said, "Well, that is the idea." So he came along to the events day with a pile of his books. We had the books by the other authors there, and it went on all day. All the authors did a little presentation to the children, got lots of questions and photographs, and luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, Nathan was runner-up, which is pretty cool for the first go, I think, isn't it? And the children that were coming to the stall to get his book signed, I think we sold out in about 10 minutes flat, didn't we, Nathan?
Yeah, I definitely underestimated how many I would sell.
Yeah, it's very hard because I'd been a bit cautious, thinking there's 6 or 8 authors here. Even if the kids like more than one of them, there's still a limit to how many 6 quids or 7 quids, whatever the books are, that they can afford. And it was lovely to see the response that Nathan did get on the day, because when the schools buy a few and pass them around the children, and that feeling that they want to own the book because they've read it or they want to read it and they want to say, "I've met the author, look at this, he signed it for me." It's brilliant. And what I found brilliant about what Nathan's done, and he's going to carry on and talk for himself in a minute, is the books were so real. They weren't fantasy. They weren't set in a world that doesn't exist. They were set where he lives, which is technically where we live. Apart from that lovely bridge behind Ruth, I mean, that's a bit posher than the bridges near Blackpool, Nathan, I think, isn't it? Well, we all probably, I think, went to Blackpool on days out with our family, and George, we went on a coach trip from Brookvale one year. Were you around for that? We all got on a coach for the Brookvale residents and went up to Blackpool for the lights. Does that ring a bell to you?
It doesn't ring a bell for me.
You must have missed it then, yeah.
Yeah. I think, did we do something with Scouts?
Yeah, we
were in Scouts together.
Yeah.
But it might have been that.
It was a big thing back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Going up to Blackpool for the lights and going on the fair. I made the mistake of going on the log flume first. It's cold in October, and I was soaking wet.
Oh boy, error.
Mr. Idiot is the word I would use. But I was blown away with Nathan's. I hadn't read Nathan's book before the event. I'd read several of the others. Even though I read a lot, you can't read everything. And I felt a bit guilty not knowing anything about him or his book, even though he was lovely. And I said, no, I'll make sure I read it. And I read it the week after, and I sent him an email and said, look, come on, we should meet up and have a coffee and chat about your book, because I'll help you sell some in the schools I go to. Because a big part of what I do is taking authors to schools and libraries. Live audiences are wonderful for an author, and sometimes they'll just talk, sometimes they'll do a workshop to help children develop their ideas. Nathan's been doing those, himself, and he'll fill you in on a project he's just got involved with. So I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to let Nathan take over. Tell us who you are, what you do, why you do it, what you've done so far, all the other things you've been doing that's amazing, and this new idea that's just come to be. So let's let Nathan take over.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for that lovely introduction. Actually, I hope I do it justice. The event with Lancashire Book of the Year, it really did give me a platform, catapulted me really into the mix, where I was kind of just dipping my toe in round the edge. It's probably when I started to identify as an author, even though I'd been made a shortlist of an award. People say author, I'm turning around looking for somebody else. I just didn't really have that identity. It was just something that I liked doing. But that event that day, the response, the interaction with the young people at the event really kind of made me feel like I was an author, you know, like actually, yeah, I'm doing this and it's happening. Getting asked for, dare I say, autographs, but getting asked for things to be signed, you know, pieces of paper, bookmarks and stuff. Yeah, I felt like a rock star for about 15 minutes. It soon fizzled out though when I got back in my car and had to trundle down the M55. But it was a brilliant day, that, and I definitely see it as a pivotal moment so far. But it wasn't always like that actually. Before there was a lot of crippling self-doubt. Still do get a bit of that, but a lot of imposter syndrome that was brewing up before that day. So yeah, definitely hold it in very high regard. It's got a big place in my heart, Lancashire Book of the Year. I'm Nathan. I am, if there is such thing as a regular lad from Blackpool. I born here, grew up here. I live here, work here. Yeah, I have been out of Blackpool. You know,
I meet you in Preston now and again, don't I?
Yeah, I meet Tony in Preston. But yeah. Probably the longest time away from Blackpool is 3 weeks in Thailand on a holiday, straight back to Blackpool, missing that Blackpool rock. Yeah, so born and bred here. I'm actually a youth worker. That's my profession. I graduated from George Williams College in London. I did a distance learning degree in youth work and community development. I've worked for Blackpool Council for 10 years. Doing various roles. I've been a youth worker in a school. I've worked in the substance misuse team, working in colleges and hostels with young people under 25 around substance misuse. And I'm now perhaps slightly removed from the face-to-face stuff, so I don't get to do as much fun stuff anymore. I'm the lead for the co-production strategy for a lottery-funded programme that focuses on mental health and resilience. So that's kind of my day job. And then when I'm moonlighting, I get my quill out and I do a bit of writing. But you know, I mean, I suppose does everybody remember their first book that they read? You know, the first book that really sat with them. That book where you think, I remember the first time I independently read a book and was, you know, fully immersed in it. And you know, you might remember it, you might not, but it's clear as day to me. And you know, I'd love to sit here today and tell you that it was one of the classics, you know, Lord of the Flies, To Kill a Mockingbird, one of those kind of real classics in the literature scene. But actually, it was Goosebumps for me. 10-year-old Nathan was into a bit of Goosebumps, and I remember it clear as day. My mum got me the book. It's called The Phantom of the Auditorium. It had the little bumpy cover, you know, where you could touch it and it was all raised. Bringing the different senses in. But I remember that book. That was the first book that I independently read. And I lived in between those, 150 pages for however long it took me. And I really felt that's the first time that I read a book, I enjoyed a book, I understood what reading a book was about. And it did start a little fire. You know, I started to think, I wouldn't mind writing one of them. How great would that be to write a book? But as you grow older, teenage years took over. Perhaps there was a little bit of confidence issues. I had plenty going on, so I should have been reading. I know that now, but for one reason or another, I just wasn't reading. Other than, you know, stuff that you have to read for school, and I just really tailed off. And it wasn't until my dad suggested reading to help with sleep. I really struggled sleeping. For a long time, and I picked up To Kill a Mockingbird, and wow, yeah, that just completely sold me on reading again. And I've been reading ever since, every night, with, you know, give or take, but I'll read a few chapters before bed. Firstly, to help me sleep, but secondly, because I enjoy it. And that really started me back on this journey of engaging with reading and writing. And the book thing came about. So The Disappearance of Timothy Dawson, that's my first book. And that was what was shortlisted for Lancashire Book of the Year in 2019. But it came about quite bizarrely, actually. Are you on about behind you, Tony?
I was just pointing.
Yeah. I went to a workshop. Has everybody heard of the Grand Theatre in Blackpool? People familiar with the Grand Theatre? I went to a workshop to do my other role, actually. And it was to do with like embedding resilience within creative arts. And at the end, they actually said, right, we're going to take 10 minutes for you now. This is all about you. And they gave us a little glass jar with a scroll in it. And they said, we want you to write down a creative pledge for yourself for 2017, it will have been. Write down a creative pledge to yourself. So I'm sat around this table and everyone's chatting and, oh, I'm going to take dancing lessons. I'm going to learn how to play the piano again and all that. So I'll write a short story. And then they got us to stand up and tell everybody. And then at the end, they revealed that, oh, by the way, if you write something down, you're X amount more likely to do it. And if you tell people, you're even more likely to. So I've told these 50 people that I'm going to write this book or this story, so I say. So I thought, I'm going to have to do it now. So that was it. I opened the laptop and I guess I wouldn't have been able to write one if there wasn't already one in me. I soon flew through the idea and got cracking with writing it. It didn't particularly take me very long when you think, I had a full-time and a part-time job at the time. And I was just finishing off my degree as well. So, it took me 12 months to write the book. But I had a 3-month window in the middle where I didn't touch it. I put it away. My confidence was really shot. Imposter syndrome was just, all over me, really. I was thinking, who the hell do you think you are writing a book? Do you know what I mean? You barely scraped through your English language A-level. Do you know, like, who do you think you are? I'm no expert in the English language. I'm not a technician. And I taught myself out of it, completely taught myself out of it. And it wasn't until I picked it up about 3 months later and I thought, I'll just have a read. And I had a read and I thought, well, actually, that's not that bad. So I started to think, if you're not an expert at the English language, what are you an expert at? And it was things like growing up in a place like Blackpool. I'm an expert at that. It was living at home with a brother who was a heroin addict. I was an expert at that. Working in Blackpool with some of the most disadvantaged kids in the country. I was an expert at that. I was doing it every day of my life. And I started to recognise that actually, if I can put this kind of content together fictionally, then I know the story is going to be authentic, and the other stuff that can kind of come later, Apologies for any of the English language connoisseurs that might be in the room or watching, but I just thought I could just Google some things that I'm not sure of, around structure and grammar and whatnot. And that's the beauty of being friends with people like Tony, the great at editing. So I convinced myself that picking the book up and finishing it, I owed that to myself. I feel like a lot of the stuff in there derives from personal and professional experiences. And I thought, yeah, Tommy's a fictional character who the story's about. But actually, there's so many Tommies in Blackpool, that diamonds in the rough, that I just have a really difficult hand dealt in life. But actually, I've got loads about them. And I just thought, actually, if I can showcase a town like Granville, which is Blackpool, but slightly adapted for the book, to have characters like that, whoever reads it, that might channel a little message of hope, and it might channel a little bit of a message of perseverance for anybody who can relate to the characters like Tommy. So I thought that I owed it to myself to finish it. And, I'd spoke to people about self-publishing, and honestly, I self-published it because I thought, if I can get myself a copy, I can give my mum one. A physical copy of the book, I can get my mum one. So I did that. I put it on Amazon, because I didn't really think there was many other options. Although, you know, given that there are other options, now I know a bit more about the book world, you know, I might pursue a different avenue in future. But I stuck it on Amazon through Kindle Direct Publishing, and it just snowballed. I got some fantastic support locally, from the Blackpool community, from you know, people who I'd worked with, people who I'm friends with, and it started to get these reviews coming in, and I started to think, bloody hell, actually, is it all right, this? Because people are saying that they're liking it, and obviously I knew my mum would say she liked it, but people like friends of friends would be getting it, and then people who knew somebody through an Instagram post or whatever was buying it and feeding back that it was great, and it started to really give me this little bit of confidence. But like I said before, it wasn't until I got the call to say I was shortlisted for Lancashire Book of the Year 2019 where I thought, whoa, what's happened there? I was at 80 books on the long list, and I've ended up sneaking into the top 10 somehow. I don't know whether they thought that they'd save on travel expenses because I'm only a little bit down the road or what, but they put me on it anyway. And you know, I found this out later. I was the first self-published author to make Lancashire Book of the Year shortlist in its history. So, you know, that was the reason why I started to believe that I was an author. And I'm not perfect, far from it. Tony will tell you that from some of the stuff that I send him. I've still got that approach to writing where I feel like my story, the raw kind of nature of my stories is what I'm relying on, and the technical side of writing is something that hopefully over the years I will continue to develop. But it's being a youth worker and now having this kind of passion for literacy and having a vehicle to get it out there. You know, it's opened up so many doors to be able to go to schools. Lockdown and COVID obviously has put a spanner in the works, but you know, I'm not going to hang on that because it has for everybody. So I've managed to do a few virtual ones, and that's not the same, but it's still great to be able to get out and chat to young people. But one of my biggest bugbears, being a youth worker, being from Blackpool, is the disproportionate rates between literacy and poverty. And that I really want to try and do something about that. You know, I want to get to schools. I don't just want to speak to pupils. I want to speak to staff. I want to speak to senior leaders. I want to speak to policymakers if I can about the importance of literacy, the importance of children feeling able to pick up a book, whether that be confidence, ability, accessibility. You know, affluence shouldn't come into it. You know, kids should be able to pick a book up and read, regardless of their ability levels at whatever time that might be. It shouldn't be a conscious thing where it's, oh, I'm not good enough to read. I mean, when does that even start? You know, 10, 11, 12. It's really quite it's quite a bugbear of mine. So yeah, things just seem to be clicking together in terms of I've had to play around with a few things. You know, I've tried a few different things, but I really feel like a unique combination of my youth work values and experiences and whatnot coming together with literacy hopefully will make for quite a decent offer for schools and the community, but also bring about change. I want young people, particularly young lads, although I'm not specific, but particularly young lads, to just have a different perspective about literacy. You know, to not think, oh, well, that's for the geeks, or oh, well, I'm thick, so that's not for me. So I try and channel this whole lived experience approach that, you know, everybody's got something to bring to the table when it comes to stories. And, you know, when you think of some of the young men in my town, and I imagine the same for you guys as well, they've got some stories to tell. They have got some stories to tell, you know, whether it's heartbreaking or you know, and against the odds, David versus Goliath kind of story. Either way, they have got some stories to tell with real harsh detail that could make for some captivating content. They just need it unlocking. You know, they just need it unlocking. They need to recognise that they've got something to bring to the table, and that's part of what hopefully I can try and do as we kind of ease out of this phase of lockdown and whatnot. Try and get out to Northwest schools and make this a thing. You know, let's get it on the radar. Lockdown made me kind of sit and reflect and review what I was doing. So I started to have a play around with some other things. I started to write some free verse, and then I started to turn it into performance poetry. I mean, poetry might be a bit stretching it. I don't want to get told off because, you know, it's probably not got the structure, the disciplined structure of legitimate poetry. It's just a load of ramble that rhymes. But it seems to have clicked with a few people on social media. I was just saying to Tony and George before, I've uploaded all my spoken word stuff to YouTube now. But yeah, on Facebook, it's a bit that observational type stuff, you know, seeing life and writing about it, and then speaking it in a bit of a quirky way, and people seem to be really engaging with it. And I suppose that leads nicely on to something that I never thought I'd say, but it's 2020, so it's the year of the WTF year, I suppose you might call it. And one of the spoken pieces was called Northern Thickos, and it was my reflections on the North-South divide, you know, in terms of health, education, and, you know, life chances, you know, the inequalities that we experience up here. Based on a report that we explored at work called Growing Up North by the Children's Commissioner, and it sat with me ever since. It was in 2018 that it's been a bugbear really. One statistic was that children on free school meals in the South are 4 times more likely to go to university than children on free school meals in the North, or, you know, specific communities in the North. And I just thought, why? You know, that is just these kids, just because of where they live. You know, the opportunities that they have access to, the quality of teaching that they have access to, you know, it's just not fair. And, you know, life's not fair. I get that, but I kind of wanted to say a few bits and pieces about it as well. And it kind of came on the back of the inconsistencies around the national lockdown and then the local lockdown, and the way that Andy Burnham was being treated and Steve Rotherham, and just the different, you know, I just thought they're being singled out, they're being kind of lauded in front of the media as these villains, and actually they're just trying to look after the constituents. And so I wrote a spoken word piece about it called Northern Thickos. Well, I didn't actually expect what happened to happen, so I think it got viewed about 15,000 times on Facebook. And a local DJ who I'm kind of friends with from over the years, he got hold of it and he turned it into a song. So he took a sample from a track from The Fall.
Oh, you still
pardon?
It's all right, you're back now. You just froze for a sec.
Oh, sorry. So it's a sample from a Fall track. Hit the North, it's called, from The Fall. So we renamed my spoken word to The North Hits Back, and he put it to, so it's a bit of a moody electronica type track, but it's obviously me speaking over it, doing my spoken word. And anyway, we put it on Bandcamp, and for charity. So we released it as a charity single, and all proceeds minus the Bandcamp fees went to Fair Share, which is obviously the charity that Marcus Rashford's been supporting so passionately. So we raised nearly 400 quid for Fair Share over the space of a couple of weeks, and yeah, it's still on Bandcamp now. So never ever thought I would say that I'd have a single released. I don't know if I'm going to be a one-hit wonder. You know, I might be Blackpool's version of Chesney Hawkes, or whether that might be, you know, an album might be somewhere further down the line. But yeah, as I say, I've had to play around with a few things. I'm dipping my toe in. I said to myself, so without going in too deep, last year I had a substantive period of time off work. I ended up having a bit of a break with my mental health. Struggled for a long time with anxiety and depressive moods, but I had 2 years where it was constant and really thick black kind of clouds. And in the end, I went to the doctors, and time was time. You know, I tried all community type of coping strategies, you know, the old exercise, the, you know, talking to people and all that. And I needed some time off work. And when I went back to work, I said, right, I'm getting rid of this whole perfection syndrome, and I'm going to just open my doors to anything. And this year has definitely kind of has supported me to do that, despite the lockdowns. You know, putting myself out there doing spoken words, putting a bloody song out on Bandcamp. You know, it's just a bit mad. I'm just trying to not take myself too seriously, really. But yeah, sorry, I feel like I've waffled on there, but that's just a little bit about me. I'm writing the third book at the minute, which will be the closing of the Granville series trilogy, as we know it. And yeah, it's about halfway done at the minute, probably about 35,000 words in. So just need to find the time to sit down and have a few good writing marathons to get it done. Expecting another little baby in February. So last time, I'm so sorry for everybody in the room, but especially any mums in the room. I finished the last chapter of the first book, sat on the bathroom floor whilst my wife was in the bath having contractions. And she said, "Will you put that fucking laptop away?" Excuse my French. And I was just like, sorry, I was just trying to get it done before the baby came. She never lets me live it down. She's in the other room now laughing at me. So yeah, you could say that I was a little bit lost in the book. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get it done before the new baby arrives. But such is life. And the beauty of being self-published at the minute is you're not bounded to certain deadlines and stuff. You can be a bit more flexible. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me.
Just before we open it up for questions, Nathan, Get Blackpool Reading and the National Literacy Trust.
Yeah, so Get Blackpool Reading. I spoke to a lovely lady called Jill, who actually was the person who got me onto Lancashire Book of the Year. You know, she signposted me in the direction of it. She's heading up Get Blackpool Reading now, which is a big initiative funded through National Literacy Trust, Blackpool Council, something called the Opportunity Area Fund. And one of their projects is called Read Up, and they want to target teenagers, to engage with reading, writing, speaking, and listening, so that, you know, really stripping it back to the basics. And they would like local creatives to be involved in that. And hopefully, because I've had an issue with going to Blackpool schools, because I'm a Blackpool Council employee, and there's a little bit of crossover with a few things, and obviously I have to be delicate around conflicts of interest and stuff. So it has been a little bit of a shame, but obviously need to keep things above board. But this presents with creative writing and spoken word, just to, as I say, just to unlock a little bit of that, inspiration, motivation, aspiration, encouragement. You know, essentially I was them 15 years ago. Well, actually, maybe longer now. 20 years ago. I was them, and you know, I think that's quite a special ingredient when you're going into schools to try and support people to engage with something that maybe they're reluctant to at the minute. So yeah, that's Get Blackpool Reading stuff. So I've actually written a spoken word that I'm going to perform for Get Blackpool Reading, so it can go out on social media. So I've only finished writing it yesterday. I've only been writing, so I've not actually performed it yet. But Tony's said that he wants me to do a spoken word. So I wondered if you'd be my guinea pigs, and I'll have to do it off my phone because I've not learned it or anything. But I'll give it a go. But yeah, you know, a little bit of context about about me and the project now. So hopefully it'll make even more sense. But we'll give it a go. So I'll just wait for it to load. Why don't you read a book? Why don't you read a book? The words I never really understood, not knowing that there were kids out there who would if they could. Maybe it was a phase for me, conscious like most teenagers. Oh man, if I knew what I knew now, I'd return in a flash to be turning those pages. I guess I had football back then, but my confidence was low, weak in fact. Self-esteem was battered. Maybe books could have kept my sanity intact. It wasn't until picking up a book to aid with my poor sleep, To Kill a Mockingbird it was, and its rewards I would reap, that I fell in love with reading, started to do it every night, exploring different characters and worlds. At the end of each day, there was light. It's cool to read and write, let me assure you, son. Anybody who tells you learning, growing and developing is fearful of what you might become. I get it, diving into a book isn't the same as flicking through Netflix or tanning your Xbox or PS5 and figuring out the latest tricks. That's the point though. It's not the same. Okay, it might be harder to keep your concentration intact, but trust me, it ain't boring. Most films and TV shows stem from books. That's straight up facts. Do we really want to become a slave to the digital scroll? Hours and hours staring blankly into a screen must take its toll. So when you're not getting what you need from a console, there's something about a quiet escape, the way a book can console. Nothing quite beats the feeling of finishing a good book. One that has you immersed within the plot, questioning the way the characters act and look. It can be fun, emotional, moving, exciting. You might not agree, but reading a brilliant book for me is better than any film or show on TV. Not everybody finds reading easy. That's something I understand. Many of us out there, for various reasons, need a helping hand. That's why I think the saying should be practice makes permanent. Because in our world, perfect doesn't exist, so don't let it be your only determinant. The thing is, reading for pleasure is one of the smartest moves you can make. It can help ensure that you have options, that you have different paths you can take. You see, there's a bit of a link between life chances and literacy skills. If you read, then it may help you when the time comes for paying your bills. Not everybody is equal though when it comes to reading. Kids in poorer communities often get overlooked. That's why I'm pleading for you to pick up a book if you can, open it and turn the page. And within it, you might just find the key to unlock your societal cage. Go to your school library, a second-hand bookstore, or read a short stuff online. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Everybody's bookshelf is different, including mine. Big changes need to happen to make reading accessible to all. That's why I'm on this mission, why I shout and stand up tall. I want to level out the playing field. Reading shouldn't be an activity based on affluence. Take away the stigma, make it a priority, convince those who can to exercise their influence. But for now, let's start small. One book, one story, your imagination. Allow your mind to enter a whole different universe of information. And that's it. Yeah, that's one of my spoken words. So that's going to be for my Get Blackpool Reading project to just to try and put a little bit of context to where I'm coming from, but maybe just to try and give a little nod to a few of the issues that I think are going on, which is for one reason or another, some young kids are very conscious or mindful about reading. Maybe they've not been introduced to it as being a fun activity, plus the fact that there's systemic inequalities that are going on in the education system, which means that a lot of northern kids are left behind. So hopefully we can try and do something to address that.
That was brilliant. You can unmute yourselves now, folks, because you can all join in now, you see. Nice to see Dave and Alban down there. Dave is also an author I work with, and I think he's going to treat us in a few weeks' time to his version of A Christmas Carol, are you not? You unmuted, Dave, yeah? You're going to be doing your version of A Christmas Carol, aren't you?
I don't mind. Well, you know me, I'll do anything.
I think before Christmas would be a good idea.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that.
Yeah,
it's a bit long-winded, like.
Yeah, well, you don't necessarily have to do all.
I'll have to abridge it a bit.
You'll have to pick the best bits, yeah. And Alban down at the bottom who's still muted. Alban, you can unmute.
I've unmuted.
You've unmuted, lovely. Alban used to be an English teacher and lived in Formby, taught in St Helens at a school, and was a good friend of mine then. In fact, in the future, Alban does wonderful stories about Dickens, Shakespeare, Thomas Hardy. You do all the old.
I'm a literary tourist. I'm a literary tourist, basically.
A literary tourist.
Yeah. But I only tuned in tonight to hear another Seasider talk, another Tangerine.
You two are both Blackpool fans, aren't you?
We are, yeah.
We're on a good run at the minute.
We certainly are.
Yeah.
Top of the world till tomorrow.
Time.
Alban used to go every week, didn't you? You were a proper season ticket holder, weren't you?
Absolutely. In fact, I still have my season ticket. I couldn't bear anybody else sat in my seat.
Have you been tuning in on the iFollow?
Yes, yeah. Well, I live down in Dorset, so it's a better season for me in many ways.
Yeah.
I can see more games.
And
I enjoyed your talk, by the way, Nathan.
Sorry, say that again, Alban.
I enjoyed your talk. I thought it was great.
Oh, thank you.
And absolutely right about getting Blackpool reading. I mean, I started teaching in Bootle, and I was always very keen about getting kids reading. Paperbacks were the thing, and getting authors in. And Tony was great about doing that when I was in St. Helens and things. But it's a real mission. So all power to your elbow. And I thought the poem was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, it really was, Nathan. And I think, you know, as it stands, it's fine. But if your friend could help you do a little bit of music for when you perform it, I sort of think, well, Dave's got a bit of music in him in the past. You know, what was your view, Dave? Would you do it just on its own, or would you put some music behind it? What would you say?
I don't know, because it's proper got a rhythm to it. But then if you put a bit of music to it, you're going to end up like what sounded like one of them beatniks of the 60s, which isn't a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? It's I loved it because I could see that I could see your hands moving with your rhythm and stuff like that. So you could almost hear the natural rhythm behind it. So if a little bit of a drum track behind that, and you'd be sad.
Cheers, Dave.
Yeah. And I tell you
what,
like
hip baby.
Hey George, you need to get your son onto this.
Yeah, absolutely. You could maybe put something to it. I was just going to say, actually, Nathan, imposter syndrome. Excuse me. That was bloody brilliant. Really, really good. And I think just actually, as you were sort of going through your talk there, I was writing down loads of little anecdotes, loads of little things that I'd like to share with you. And one thing in particular, which I think is really relevant. And I think your wife might appreciate this as well, by the way, okay, which is a little quote from Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook. And it is, done is good enough.
Yeah.
So don't be the perfectionist, please.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Put the laptop, especially when she's in contractions, put the laptop down. Okay. Really important.
I know. I'm never going to live it down.
No, you won't, because I had similar with my wife when we were having children years back. I can't remember what I was doing now, but she was contracting away saying, how far apart are we? And I'm there going, whatever I was doing.
How far apart are you? 3,000 words. Yeah.
But also, folks, I mean, I know you can't all come every week when we're doing this, but I think Ruth, who's just down there, you're going to come on board next week, aren't you? And tell us a bit about you and what you've been up to, Ruth, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Yes, yeah. So Ruth and I are going to have a chat before then, just so, we can mull over a few bits to point her in the right direction. But so next Monday, Ruth's going to have a go. And then Dave down there is penciled in for one of the other Mondays in December. And there's another friend of Julie's has been in touch. And I had a lovely chat with a chap called Derek Shelmadine, who's a radio presenter, works for Access Northwest, who are local. And he has written a 700-page music book. But you can read it one page at a time. You don't have to read the whole book. So it's an ideal Christmas book for your uncle or your dad or your aunt or your mum. And so he goes right back to the 1950s, right up to when Blondie and people like that came about. And he does it day by day and how people have interleafed with each other. So I think between now and Christmas, we can fill every week. And then, we'll build on it for next year. And like I say, sometime next year, Alban will do a Dickens or a Hardy, or you can do whatever you want.
I'll talk about something.
Yeah, so if we just all spread the word a little, try and encourage people to either come along live if they can, or it's up on Facebook. I'm recording it and I'll put it up on YouTube, and I'll send Nathan a copy. He can put it up on his YouTube. George can have a copy, for his. We're all in this together to try and bring people together, ideas, stories, places. My thing in lockdown, which some of you will have seen, is I've got into photography. In fact, Julie does photography in lockdown as well, don't you? You've been out and about. But George, yeah, please fire away.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've got a couple of questions which I'd like to ask everybody, and it relates to what you were saying earlier on, Nathan, about, a book, the first book that you sort of picked up and really got you reading. So just as a matter of interest for everybody, I'm going to start with, actually, I'm just going to go around. So from the bottom of the list that I've got over here, Ruth, what was the first book that you picked up and got you reading?
The first book that I ever read completely by myself was a point horror called Fun House by R.L. Stein.
Okay.
I absolutely love that book. Like, he's nodding. I can see you. Yeah. Goosebumps. It's all the same. I think R.L. Stein's the Goosebumps writer, isn't he? He's the author of Goosebumps. But yeah, that was the first book for me. And I could still see the cover in my head. I was obsessed with that book. I read it so many times. It was like my Bible.
Brilliant. Just as a matter of interest then, what was was there another book that sort of sticks in the memory as well?
The Catcher in the Rye.
Okay, cool. Next one up, we're gonna go. Peter, are you still there, able to talk to us? I'm hoping Peter's still there. Are
you writing these down, George? Just you can post them up on the Facebook later.
Oh, what a good idea. Catcher in the Rye and...
Point Horror by R.L. Stein, wasn't it?
Point Horror, okay. Peter's not... Okay, so Alban, what was your first book, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. I remember crying over a book called Patch when I was a small child. That was very moving. But probably reading science fiction, Patrick Moore, I remember reading him, and Arthur C. Clarke, people like that. Mm-hmm. Probably the Tolkien was the one who really turned me on to it. I mean, I remember getting stuck into The Lord of the Rings, and it was a different world, and I couldn't come out of it. And I read it 2 or 3 times, and I thought it was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I will say that's probably why I ended up teaching English. And I've got my own favorites. I always say, if you only ever read one book, read To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. So if you only ever read one paragraph, read that bit from Wuthering Heights. But I mean, these are my own biases. So there's lots of great literature I love, but I think Tolkien was the thing which made me see that this can make a big difference.
Excellent. Maria, what was yours?
My first book that I remember reading was Enid Blyton, Famous Five.
Oh, lovely.
That's the first one, if you want me to be honest.
Yeah, so you picked up, you read for yourself. It wasn't, wasn't given to you by anybody. A sort of a forced read is what I mean.
Yeah, no, I picked it up and read, and as a child, I did enjoy reading. Had a bit of various schools, but another book that I enjoyed was Little Women and Jane Austen. So I got into all those sorts of books, and then probably tailed off. But as I got older in my teens, I enjoyed reading The Godfather was a book that I enjoyed, Mario Puzo, just things like that. I enjoy reading a wide spectrum of books, but it does take you out of yourself, and you can just go into another world and be with those characters.
It's the escapism, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Dave, what was yours? Your first book that you picked up?
Well, I was a product of as Alban will know, I'm from Bootle, so getting to read.
Wonderful place.
It's a vibrant place, if anything else. Getting to read was almost frowned upon. The lads were all like, "Oh, what are you doing reading?" So I used to do it like on my own time, if you know what I mean. So I wouldn't tell anyone I was reading. And the first one I picked up, and they were all clean, by the way. The first one I picked up was Skeleton Crew by Stephen King.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that's a series of short stories. I was 11. I remember I just turned 11. It was July and it was roasting hot and I was bored on the summer holidays and I picked it up and it just blew me away. Just like all the short stories, and then I realised that one of the short stories was the prequel to Salem's Lot. So then the next book I read was The Stand by Stephen King, which was, at the time, it was nearly as big as me. It was about that big. But the biggest book, the one of the most fondest memories of reading a book was Big Fish by Daniel Wallace. People probably know it now because Tim Burton made a film of it a few years ago, and it's about the stories that his dad's dying in the book, and it's all the stories that his dad told him when he was a kid, and how magnificent and mystical and exaggerated they were. And then when his dad, I'm going to ruin it for you, when his dad dies, all the people from the stories turn up, and they're all just sort of like paled down versions of the stories that he told. So the stories were true, but it's just, I read it not long after my dad died, and it just got me. Do you know what I mean? And I would love to write a book like that, but I don't know whether I've got anything like that in me. I'd be crying all the time. I'd be like that. Your laptop should be ruined. Like, but yeah,
Love it.
Stephen King and as I say, the Daniel Wallace Big Fish.
Brilliant. Julie, can we come to you? Come on, what was the one that you first picked up and read for yourself?
You can come to me, but the awful thing is I can't remember. I grew up in a house full of books. My dad was an English teacher. And when you first said, what was your first book? The first picture that came into my head was the Beano Annual, because my aunt used to buy us those every year. And the Beano Annual, I can still picture it. I can feel it. You know, books have a feel of them. I can't get on with Kindles because I cannot imagine not having a book in my hand. You know, the smell of a book. But actually, when Marie mentioned the famous 5, yes, I've rattled through all of those, and the Secret 7 and Mallory Towers. I think I remember all of those. But the sad thing is that as soon as we started English at school, and as soon as we started English O-level, and you were given a set book, that destroyed all my love of reading, because you didn't read the book, you dissected it. And that put me off reading for many years, which to my dad was horrified that I wouldn't read. I did remember reading A Town Like Alice by Neville Shute.
Wow.
And he would suggest me books to read. And I, these days, as soon as he's finished a book, it comes here and I can read it. So I've read really varied things, but the sad thing was that I missed many years of the classics because English literature GCSE just put me off it forever. We had A Trumpet Major,
Hardy,
Thomas Hardy, yeah, and it was. I think, perhaps the teacher wasn't enjoying it. I've since devoured Jane Austen. I love all of Jane Austen's works. And I read those over and over again just for the pleasure of the language. But it saddens me that the way English literature is taught in schools for the exam, that the love of reading for reading's sake is lost. That's a shame.
It becomes a chore, doesn't it? It's a chore for the kids.
Oh,
yeah. And if it's if you've got to do something, then the kids are going to rebel against doing it, and therefore their love of reading goes out the window.
Yeah. Even at primary school level, kids have to go home, read, and then sign a book and take it in, and it's almost like a, I have to do my reading, and someone's got to sign it, and it just becomes straight away that dynamic and that relationship with books is, that's something I have to do for school.
And having read, we've got 3 children, and having had to read with them, some of those works that they have to read are rubbish, absolute rubbish. Kip and somebody and Kip.
Yeah, Biff and Kipper, yeah.
What a load of tosh. It doesn't, you cannot, even as an adult who loves reading, I couldn't make it sound fun. It was just words put together.
Sorry, I do like a few Comic Cons up and down the country, and
thank God for that. I thought you were just going to say I wrote Biff and Kip.
You'd have just seen my screen go black. God.
Sorry, Dave.
No, that's okay. No, I do Comic Cons up and down the country, and I wrote a few years ago what Tony was alluding to before. I wrote a graphic novel version of A Christmas Carol, and it's completely written in rhyme. So from page 1 through to Scrooge was the best granddad of the whole town of London. It's all written in rhyme right the way through. Now, the schools now, as part of the curriculum, Christmas Carol is part of the curriculum. So they've got to read Christmas Carol in order to pass their English GCSE, as you alluded to before. And if you've ever read A Christmas Carol, I know like probably the majority of you guys have, it's heavy going. It's not as easy or as light as the films allude to. So you can imagine 13, 14-year-old kids like that. What am I reading here? Yeah. So that's why. So a lot of the teachers, like when I've been selling my graphic novel, a lot of the teachers have come back to me and said, "This is brilliant as a reading aid because it rhymes. The illustrations are in full color and the gorgeous illustrations. I got one of my mates to do the illustrations, and he said that they use as a reading aid. So if they've got like a reading aid, then if they're looking at something that they can enjoy, but they're still getting the classic put into them, it's a win-win, and it's really difficult to do because Christmas Carols is just it's tough going. It's a tough read.
Heavy duty.
Yeah, that was my 2 pence worth there.
Cool. Tony, what was yours? Your first book?
Stig of the Dump.
Oh right.
Yeah, Stig of the Dump. Blew me. I love that book. And a bit later on, I love George Orwell. Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide, which is probably one that you would probably, put there. I believe R. Matthews watching Dirk Gently on Netflix. So right. I've not got Netflix, so I haven't seen it. And then last year I read a book called Once Upon a River, which Alban should read. It's by a lady called Diana Setterfield. And it's the story of part of the River Thames where it bends around, and it's the boatmen and all the people that live on the riverbank. But it starts with a giant collapsing, apparently dead, in a pub, dropping a baby on the floor. And everyone thinks he's dead and the baby's dead. But they're trying to resuscitate him. And what you might call the village idiots in the corner of the pub cradling this apparently dead baby. And then all of a sudden the baby coughs and comes to life. And now they've got to work out whose is the baby. Where has this baby come from? 3 different people claim it. And it's a brilliant book. It's just one of those easy reads, unlike, Dave alluding to, the style of older writing. She's just got a lovely, easy way of reading. It is a big, thick book, but it's called Once Upon a River, and I recommend it a lot. And I've never met anyone yet who's not come back to me and said, "Oh, I wish I'd read that before." And I think, well, it only came out a year ago. But we should ask Nathan, other than Goosebumps, if he's read anything since.
I was just going to say, actually, I was going to come round to Nathan. Anything else then?
Do you know what I'm reading at the minute? Glue by Irving Welsh, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's there's a lot of things I can relate to in terms of the style. The real life, the adversity that obviously the characters face. I'm not going to claim that I'm anywhere near as good at it as Irving Welsh, but certainly something to aspire to anyway. But Green Mile is one that stands out for me, Stephen King. And it's funny because I'm not huge on the supernatural either, but it's the way Stephen King writes, I just think is cracking. Yeah, there's lots of different types really. Sleepers, I really enjoyed Sleepers. I did that for my A level. Compared to the film and the book for my media studies A level. So yeah, and I didn't have that as you had, Julie, which was put off by the dissecting by that point. I was sick to death of Mice and Men at school and dissecting that. But by the time I got to college, yeah, Sleepers is one of my favourite books as well. But yeah, loads of different books. I think Glue is gonna. I mean, I don't know how it ends, so it could all hinge on that. But the way I've been sucked into every single word is really. It's got. Yeah, I think that's the flavour of the month at the minute.
Stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will do. It's got. I can tell. In fact, I'm thinking about. I'll be going up to read a few chapters in a bit. So.
But that was my rubbish joke. Stick with it.
Dave did stand-up comedy for a while, actually, didn't you?
That's why I stopped.
You can tell I've had a long day, can't you? Straight into that one.
Yeah. Alban,
Yeah.
just coming back to you, as an English teacher, I mean, I think Julie hit on a point and everyone else seems to agree with. As an English teacher, how do you see that point? Just out of interest.
I was always of the opinion that everybody should do English literature because otherwise they wouldn't have that experience. It was easier to sell it, I felt, under a continuous assessment because you could do it in units of work and in bit parts. And when you're preparing for an exam, you do have to prepare it for all of eventualities. But I always think the thing is down the school to try and give them that love of reading anyway, by giving the opportunity to and enthusing about books and about literature. And talking about A Christmas Carol, yeah, it is heavy going, and it is now a GCSE book, I think, because they have to do a pre-19th century text. Sorry, pre-20th century text. But they, what I used to do with year 8, and I used to read it to them, mainly because all my English lessons are self-indulgent, so I just love reading it and taking all the best bits. So that was my way of doing it, to try and sell it by me enjoying it. I don't know whether they did or not, but I did.
Anyway, folks, I think, I mean, time's flown by. I mean,
yeah,
amazing to think. At the start, you're thinking, oh, we've said we'll be here for an hour. Okay. And then an hour later, you know, it's still going. I mean, there's nothing wrong with carrying on, but you know, I'm conscious to some extent that you know, we probably all have got other things to fit in as well.
I'm a Celebrities on.
Is it?
Minutes. Yeah.
Oh, are you watching it?
It's the only thing that I like on the telly.
Your guilty pleasure, isn't it?
Don't judge me.
Your guilty pleasure.
It's me guilty. Don't judge me, please. Don't judge me.
So, I mean, a couple of things. I mean, hopefully you've all enjoyed yourselves, and I thank you from me to Nathan for being brave enough to come on board and be the guinea pig, be first to do this.
No, thanks for having me. It's been great.
And,
Good to meet everybody.
You know, like I say, we're recording it, so it'll go up on YouTube. I'll send it over to George and to Nathan. Ruth is going to come on board next week, and we're going to stay on the Zoom after this and have a quick chat, go over a couple of ideas for what we're going to do. Spread the word to people that, you know, they can dip into this. They can watch it on YouTube, or I think it stays on Facebook for a while as well, doesn't it? We picked up about 54 views for the one I did on my own last week, which was hilarious because I forgot to record it. And it was quite good for about 15 minutes. And I thought, now I've done enough now. And I looked at the screen and thought, oh, I've been talking entirely to myself. So I took a deep breath, I hit record and did it again, and it went out. And there were about 54 people that saw it. I think all you watched some of it. Alban, didn't you?
I did, yes,
Yeah.
I did.
So, you know, at least a few people saw it. But, you know, I think the thing about a book club is it's about being part of it. If we get too many people joining in, you will just be like a little head up at the top of the screen watching the one person. You know, and we do want that person to get their 20 minutes or so, you know, within reason, saying what they want, really. I think everyone's got a different story to tell. And Nathan was, you know, brilliant. You were so brave. You know, anyone who tells other people that they've not met before, you know, I had a problem last year or whenever, that takes some doing that. So, you know, thank you for being yourself and being honest. And, you know, I've read both books. Luckily, as Nathan said, we became friends after the first one came out. So he'd pretty much written the second one, but it was nice to go over it, look for the odd mistake here and there. And he's learnt a lot from book 1 to book 2 anyway. I think he's a natural writer, he's a natural author. And I think I've read about a third of book 3, haven't I, so far? But we decided to wait till he'd finished it before he sends it to me. I think sometimes, and Dave might agree with this because I helped Dave a bit, if you get too involved while it's still being written, it stops it being written. You're best really to get it written and then pick bits, you know, apart that need a little bit of work. I mean, Dave writes a lot quicker than you, Nathan. How many books a year do you write, Dave?
15.
No, you've about 4 or 5, isn't it?
It feels like 15.
It feels like 15. Well, you know, but Dave can literally move from one to another and, you know, doesn't seem to get burnt out at all, which is amazing, really. And, you know, he has got family and a life. He's not.
This isn't my house.
I know that.
I live in a shed.
I got it done with Dave when I was in Bootle.
Yeah.
What school did you teach in, Alban?
It was Salesian and then Savio.
Ah, that's what the school I went to.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
There's a story of the French teacher who was said, she was asked after the first week.
Madame Dalalio.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And she said, what do you think of it? It is going very well, but what are these giraffes they keep on talking about? And it was, you have to do your own work.
Yeah.
Supposedly a true story.
Yeah, she could never pronounce my name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I better get your name and write it down and check my list. But
Yeah.
you might
have been the one who failed me.
Yeah. You're probably in my class with all that literature. That's what it was.
Sorry, anyway. George. Nobody asked you what your first book was.
Oh dear God. Well, actually, Tony might remember this because I think I lent it to you or whatever. It was actually James Herbert, The Rats.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Is that the one you tried selling to me, Tony?
It was a rare copy, that.
But that was probably the very first one that I picked up because, you know, like Julian, I think like an awful lot of people, we were doing for GCSE the Mayor of Casterbridge. And, you know, I mean, I love Dorset. I lived down in Dorset myself for, you know, quite some time, and it's where I would move to in a heartbeat. But blooming heck. Yeah, thanks. Bye, Julie. But, you know, the Mayor of Casterbridge. Oh, dear God. And having to go through and dissect it apart. I'm sorry, it was awful. And then another one actually stood out as I was writing, thinking about these questions. Excuse me. And Tony, I think you've had this author come to your bookshop to do a signing, and it was Lee Child. And I'll never forget the quietest couple of days on holiday ever was when a friend of ours lent Julie The Hard Way, and we didn't see her for 2 days. It was great. You know, the children had fun, meals were on the table and all that sort of stuff. Then she lent it to me, and they didn't see me for 2 days either. What a page turner. But I think that is part of the thing about, you know, makes us read books, and it's that escapism, it's that fantasy, and it is that page turner. And if we can just get something that gets kids doing that, and I think that's really what you're after there, Nathan, it is getting kids into reading something, and maybe even a bit of reverse psychology with them. You know, maybe even saying you really shouldn't read any of those Potter books. You know, they're really they're very, very bad, and they're probably going to pick them up and read them. So it was just interesting that nobody has mentioned the Potter books. And by the way, how many of us have read those to the kids, to our own kids? Yeah. And how many of the kids then at some point or other during their journey have picked them up and read them for themselves?
Yep.
And I think, you know, that's something I think we really have to thank her for that, for getting kids reading. But it's finding the right thing for the right kids. And, you know, maybe as I was jotting down some ideas there, it was about the you know, special forces things for the lads. You know, I can't remember the name of the authors. Tony, I'm sure.
Andy McNabb
and a few others who, you know, are there, and they've just got fantastic stories, escapism, and it's just capturing, you know, what some of the lads might be interested in. So as I say, it's finding the right things for the right kids. But it just had me. So thank you, Nathan. You had me off on a whole journey of, oh yeah, that book. Oh, that one as well. Why not? It's good. But thank you, Dave, for asking. Completely forgotten.
And Nathan, you'll have to invite Alban up in the summer when people are allowed to go and watch a Blackpool game.
So to Bloomers, yeah.
He could help you with a session with the Blackpool reading thing as well. Then you can get him a free ticket. He'd come and do a voluntary lesson on Roald Dahl for you or something.
My favourite game of football that I ever watched was, I'm an Everton fan, so it was Everton versus Blackpool.
Don't apologise.
It was 6-3.
Yeah.
We ended it 6-3. Yeah. We won, but you guys were
end to end, wasn't it?
3-1 up.
Yeah. Surprised I've forgotten that one.
It was end to end. It was such a good game. It was unbelievable. I remember Sahar got 4 goals.
What year was that?
2010, 11.
Must have been, yes. Sahar was playing for us. So
I must have seen it then.
Yeah.
But conveniently forgot it.
But it was a great. But it was even though it was 6-3, it was a very even game.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I remember that. Yeah. End to end. Was it?
Was that Goodison Park?
Was it pouring down?
Yeah.
Goodison
Park? It was. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was winter time. It was freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alban,
I actually think that you were my English teacher. I've got a feeling. What years were you in Savio?
Oh, 76 to 91, I think.
You'd have been my English teacher then.
It wasn't me. It's not true.
Yeah. I left in, oh geez, what? I keep forgetting how old I am. I'm 47 now, so 89 I would have left, I think.
Well, I would have been there then.
Yeah,
I used to take people to Anglesey on every May holiday.
Yeah, I'm sure you were my form tutor at one point.
You lucky man. That's why you've turned into such a wonderful human being.
That's probably what it is. I had such good, just good tutorage.
Good to meet you.
Still can't spell.
Oh well.
We can help with that.
You can write though, and you can talk.
I'm ending the recording.